Hi everybody, I'm here today with David Bong, a member of the IPSA International Academy faculty. David, today I want to talk with you about the US machine setting because it's very important to start in the right way when we want to perform an UX exam.
Well, I absolutely agree. The machine looks very complicated, but actually we're going to focus on just 4 buttons. And those adjustments are critical for obtaining excellent musculoskeletal images.
Very well, so enjoy the video.
So today we're going to talk about some basics. Basics about the machine and also the probe and the best technique to utilize the probe. So let's first start with the various buttons that are important. And on the machine there are 5 buttons that are important. First of all, the on-off button to initiate the machine, to turn it on. And then the 4 buttons that I'm always changing when I'm doing musculoskeletal ultrasound are here. And the machines are basically similar. So we have one button that basically controls the brightness or the brilliance of the screen. This is called gain. And here it's this button, and we just control the gain by turning it either clockwise or counterclockwise to turn up the brightness. It's kind of like the volume button on a radio. So that's number 1, and it really is your preference, how bright you want the image or how much contrast you want. The second parameter, the second button that is important, is the depth button. On this machine it happens to be right here. And this controls the depth of the image on the screen. You can see the numbers in centimeters here. You can see the number 2 there. So I can control the depth. Now, what's the correct depth? Well, the correct depth depends on what you're looking at. So you just want to put enough depth on the machine to include the images that you're interested in. So depth is also variable. So it's another button that you're going to be changing. Finally, or not finally, but the third adjustment that you need to consider is the frequency. On this machine, it happens to be here. It's this button. So this machine, with the probe that I'm going to use, has a range of about 4 to 12 megahertz. And so what we're going to do is change the frequency depending on where the structure that we're interested in is. If it's superficial, we can use high frequency. And that's what we want to do. Higher the frequency, the better the resolution. If it's deep, we need to lower the frequency. And this is a mistake that many sonographers make. They don't lower the frequency to look at structures that are deeper, and their images aren't very good. So frequency is another button. Now the fourth and probably the most important button on this machine happens to be right here, and that's the focus. And you can see here these bright yellow markers on the right. And the focus intensifies the energy of the machine at this level, the level between these 2 focus indicators. Now we can change the number. We can go to 1 focus or 2 focus, or we can fill the whole, we can even go to 3 or 4. But normally I like to use 1 or 2 focal indicators so that this is the area where the highest resolution is. And then we can vary the position by, again, manipulating this button. And where do we want to put the focus? We want to put it at the same level or just below the structure that we're interested in. So those are the 4 buttons. Of the 4 buttons, the one that I'm changing the most is the focus, and that depends just on the structure that I'm interested in. So now let's look at the screen as we change these different parameters. So let's start with the gain. And here we have the image of the extensor compartment of the wrist. And we can see here, let me just get the arrow, we can see the tendons of the 4th compartment of the extensors here. Now, first of all, we're just going to change the gain. And as we increase the gain, you can see how bright the image gets, and you can actually wash the image out with the intensity. It requires a lot of energy from the machine to do that. And then we're just going to go ahead and turn it down. I like a little more contrast, so this is kind of where I like it, but it's really your preference, the amount of gain that you're going to use. Remember though, the more gain you use, the more energy the machine has to utilize. So it may slow down your frame rate a little bit, so your image may be lag behind the movement of your probe. So that's gain. Now the other parameter that's very important is the depth. Now here our depth is about 2.5 centimeters, and we don't need all that depth. Here's what we're interested in. We're interested in those those tendons in the fourth compartment. So what we're going to do is decrease the depth. So this magnifies our image, and the least we can go is 2.5 centimeters, but this is much more. Now you have a larger image, so this is appropriate as far as the depth on this particular area that we're imaging. Now, the other thing is frequency. This is a very, very superficial structure, as many of our structures in musculoskeletal ultrasound are. So what we're going to do is maximize the frequency. Maximum frequency, maximum resolution, a great image. So what we're going to look at here on our parameters is what the frequency is. It's at 11. I think that's probably the maximum. No, we can go to 12. So we'll go to 12. So now we have a very superficial structure. We're using our maximum frequency that this probe allows, and it'll give us the best resolution possible. Now, if this were a deeper structure, we'd clearly want to lower the frequency so that we could see a structure much deeper. So it allows this penetration. Remember that inverse relationship between frequency and penetration. So the more you have to penetrate, the lower the frequency. You need to lower that frequency. Now, the last thing we want to do is the focus. Here's our marker of focus. It's right at the level, so it's fairly appropriate. We could maybe lower it just one little bit. I like to put it right at the bottom of the structure I'm interested in, but this basically increases the energy in this level to give us the best resolution possible. And as I manipulate the probe, you can see the tendons within the fourth compartment. You can see the retinaculum over the surface. So that's basically what the image looks like. So I pay attention to all of those, but what I'm changing most often is the focus, depending on where the structure is that I'm interested in imaging.